Folks, something just happened here backstage. Something just happened internally. You may be surprised why you're seeing and hearing me right now, but I'm here on behalf of Tope Suicida, who requested I take his place for the evening. I took his substantial fee for that spot. And as we're running the intro, I see that I may not be needed in that role of replacement because it appears the big man is back. Tope Suicida, to explain yourself. Why are you here?
Uh, as you can see, I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
I have a solid about 8 to 10 minutes in me right now,
Okay.
so we're going for a sprint.
All right, we'll try and make the most of those, folks. I am your temporary host here for the next hour or so. We'll see how we go. Before we don't waste Tope's 10 minutes, we'll quickly catch up with everyone. Dukes, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Chris, how are you?
Playing the hits. Love it.
Yeah.
Pretty good. A little stressed out, but it's fine. We're
Yeah.
here to decompress a little.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that indeed. Hopefully, for everyone joining us, can decompress also on this Monday here, Summer Monday. We have some AEW to talk about. Much going on in the land of All Elite Wrestling, and we have two vibrators right now. The Collision. I like the way you guys have adjusted to the new era in my absence. There is a Collision vibrator also. So with that, I think it makes sense to let Tope kind of steer the ship for a moment here. What would you like to talk about in your 8 to 10 minutes?
Oof. I mean, I feel like you have to start with the tag. For me, that was my tag match of the year. So.
Well, I'm glad I asked because I didn't want to waste your 10 minutes like talking about Commander versus Jericho. So let's start there and then we'll circle back to the. In fact, it is your graphic. We should really do this. Just be fair to the man. I mean, let's look at this. Have this image in front of us here as we talk about this match. An AEW classic for sure, a TV classic. We were talking last night on Discord about where it ranks all time among TV tags. And it's very, very high, seems to be the consensus. Young Dukes, what did you make of the 2 out of 3 falls epic?
I thought it was fucking awesome. I love Jay White. I love Juice Robinson, and I think I realized last night while watching this that I think Cash Wheeler is my favorite wrestler.
Mm-hmm. I respect that. I have to ask Tope, who is Dax? Like, who is he informing they are not that guy here?
Some teenage punk.
Okay. Dukes or less specific?
Sure.
Okay.
I thought it was general. I thought it was like the masses.
The masses. Silent M.
Silent.
Okay. All right, that works. Chris, what did you make of the 2 out of 3 falls match?
It was awesome. They just the Jay White and Juice, since Collision's been a thing, have just delivered constantly. I love their spot on the show on this massive Collision roster.
Oh yeah.
It was great. I love how this felt. Like obviously, we know that there's history the past few weeks with them, but just the way this felt like a competition was incredible. Especially like the 2 out of 3 falls aspect of it, like trying to one up each other constantly was great. The way that there was one part where Dax and Cash were like talking strategy in the corner, the cutoffs, everything was good. Because to me, like it's tough with tag matches sometimes, and they weren't always my favorites, especially because like as I've been growing up, what tag matches have been, they haven't necessarily been presented as important. But this felt different, right? There's no in like combat sports, right? There's no blueprint for a tag match. For like a competitive tag match, but this, I don't know, they hit it. They had the perfect mix of like story and they're fighting for a title, right? So I thought it was great. I thought production wise, this was one of AEW's best captured matches. It's just honestly like it's a match I'll probably remember for a very long time. It was probably one of my favorite, at least AEW televised matches. It's if it's not one, it's up there.
I co-sign it for sure. Tope, now that we have successfully burnt 6 of your minutes, would you like to elaborate on this tag team match of the year of yours?
I'm gonna go as far as to say that this match like solidified for me that I prefer tag wrestling to singles wrestling.
Beast.
Yeah.
But I prefer like singles acts more than tag acts. So I'm more invested in them, if that makes sense.
My God, that was layered. Dukes, do you understand what he just said? Did that make any sense to you?
No, not at all. Nothing he
Doesn't
says really
matter,
makes sense
man.
to me, to be honest.
True.
Do we have any update on the internal Tope Suicida tag team standings? I know that previously Aussie Open have been kind of dominant, and many of us online have questioned that choice. I know Tape Machines has been very loud about it. Have you kind of shifted it all after seeing this match? Are you no longer Team Aussie Open?
Aussie Open are still number one. I will say that one of these two teams that was in this match is number two.
Okay. I appreciate that when Tope does a list, he leaves you some room to guess. I think someone should take that format to like the YouTube list genre, Like you get to 5 and they go, they're in the top 5, folks. Comment below.
This team, not 5.
Yeah.
Tope's
Figure it
top
out for
10.
yourself. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Tope Suicida, you have like a minute or two. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before you depart Fleet Week?
Could I just see your guys' reactions to the Dynamite vibrator?
Yes, absolutely, because we're going to
And then I'll head
transition to
out.
that now. Anyway, here we go, folks. This is the Dynamite vibrator.
I saw this already. This is fucking awesome.
The sky falls down is amazing.
We want answers.
All right,
Yeah.
see you guys.
Sweet. Have a good one,
Bye.
Tope. What a cameo that was, folks. What
His
a cameo.
mind
This
is
is
He's a
crazy.
piece of shit.
It's incredible. Now this is going to be our kind of gimmick here tonight. As I said at the top of the hour, I'll be departing also. I think maybe at the end, Dukes will leave and it would be Chris doing a sort of solo. I don't know how it's going to go, but we will let it play out nonetheless. Let's get into AEW Dynamite. We kicked off Commander and Jericho singles match, a unique matchup. I think it's fair to say, an interesting pairing, but they worked together decently enough. What did you guys think, Dukes? I'll start with you.
It definitely surpassed my expectations for it. I was not sitting watching the anime being like, oh yeah, it's fucking Chris Jericho Commander time. But I thought it was all right, and I really liked the finish.
Yeah, I did too. The finish was tremendous. They had a couple of sloppy moments leading into it, but the finish itself, they stuck the landing. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Chris, what did you make of the Jericho match with Commander?
Yeah, I thought I kind of like Commander for what he is, but the problem is that I don't necessarily know what he is yet, so that's kind of a problem. But Jericho in his where he is now has this like really funny thing with me where I can't tell if he looks like comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time.
Yes.
At points, and I think that this match was the best example of it. Because I'm not gonna come on here and tell you that like, oh, Jericho's back, fucking luchador. Jericho against the luchador is always whatever, but like whatever, it was fine. I enjoyed it. The finish was great. And yeah, like it was fine little match.
Yeah, it worked for me. I'm intrigued by this Jericho business. Any guess, Dukes, as to where this Don Callis, Chris Jericho drama is headed?
No. And honestly, I don't really care. I really rather not have Chris Jericho involved with anything Don Callis is doing. I'm kind of hoping it was just like a red herring for the main event of Dynamite.
Well, Jericho needs a match at Wembley, right?
Yes.
And
well,
is there anyone? I'm trying to think. Was there an English guy that Don Callis aligned himself with recently, by any chance?
No.
Anyway,
Don't do that to the bastard.
Up next we had. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about a different prick.
Oh no! No.
Anyway, Jack Perry and Hook are continuing their quite comical backstage interactions. So we'll kind of see where that's headed. They're wrestling on Wednesday. Chris, what have you made of this feud thus far?
So I've been entertained by it. I like that it's kind of like to get Jack's like dip Jack's toes in the water a little bit for this heel run. I'm excited just because like I feel like there's something coming here, and I know that we've talked about it. I don't think we've talked about it on air of like our guesses on what this is, but a certain person joining Jack's quest for gold, perhaps.
Konnichiwa.
That scared the fuck out of me. but yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes personally.
Okay, tremendous. Shout out to JR, who's repped all hell. See you in Chicago, pal. We're gonna have a hell of a time. Dukes, what do you make of this Jack Perry, Jungle Boy Jack heel run thus far?
I've liked it, but I fucking love this pre-tape with Hook. This was the one where they were like, where he was like outside, right, eating dinner.
Mm-hmm.
This was
No,
fucking awesome.
this was the one when the child locks. This was that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, yeah. This was just like this was good, but the other one was that on Collision?
That was on Rampage, I think.
Okay. How did I
Hilariously.
see it? Oh,
I
whatever.
mean, it was
online.
all that stuff out, right? Yeah.
I have no idea. But the one where they were outside was fucking beast.
Indeed, it was rated very well on the vibrator here. I'm just seeing it almost clocked in at impeccable vibes, which is
This was
incredible.
all Tope. Me and Chris had no input on this one.
Well, that explains a lot. All right. We dip down here to good vibes for the Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin versus Danny Garcia and Sammy Guevara match. All this was good, so I co-sign that assessment. Feels like they have a better one in them. What did you guys think of this, Chris? What did you make of it?
Yeah, it feels like I don't know for what reason. I kind of got that vibe too of like it felt like they held back a little bit. Like none of them really reached their. We know that they're all capable of. I liked that it was kind of a fast pace, and the crowd was really into it. But yeah, I thought it was good. I don't think this was the best match that they all could have had together, but I thought that it was really solid. I like the finish. It keeps the story going. So we'll see where this goes with them. I'm excited to see what happens with Sammy and Garcia though, like where they go from here.
Well, I mean, you would assume, back to that prior Jericho pop, but it is an interesting time because you would assume that Sammy at least will have something at Wembley, right? Now, I'm not necessarily saying I want that or need that, but you would assume. And so you kind of wonder what that means for Garcia and whether they're going to be a team. Maybe they wrestle for the tag titles at Wembley. I don't think they're going to win this tournament necessarily, but we'll get into that later. Dukes, what did you make of this tag here?
I liked it. My dad was very mad that
Bob.
Garcia and Sammy won. He was like, they won, and he was like, these fucking clowns, and I was like, yeah.
You mean to say that Papa Dukes is not complimentary of the psychology that Daniel Garcia is displaying?
No, he's just like a dumb guy that dances,
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know people still watch wrestling that way. I thought we all had like notepads and stuff, I didn't realize. But
he's definitely not a notepad guy.
you need to send him like 15 wrestling review podcasts just to shift. That's definitely the best way. Yeah, that's the best way to watch wrestling, folks. We all know this. Proven fact. Cage hears about Wayne's dad, which is an incredible way of noting a great pre-tape about Nick Wayne and his family. But nonetheless, this was a hell of a deal. This was really well done. Chris, how have you felt about the introduction of Nick Wayne?
I thought it's been good. Last week, I kind of like threw it around where I wish they would have talked about Swerve a little more. But seeing what that match was, it didn't necessarily need that. But yeah, the way he's being presented as again like just this blue chip prospect, this like big splash. I really enjoy that, especially for a guy who like obviously most people that are even online a lot and really in tune with what's going on might not know who Nick Wayne is or haven't seen a Nick Wayne match. So I think the presentation and the handling of this is really important, especially since they announced like, okay, right when he turned 18, this is his first match and kind of did it the way they did. I think the pre-tape's been really necessary. And I like the match too. So I'm really excited to see where this goes.
I have to circle back to Daniel Garcia because I'm delighted to announce that we have a new contender for greatest comment in the history of Late Night Grin.
Oh my God.
The third page of Larry Bird announces, in the privacy of my living room, I've tried again and again to do the Garcia dance, and I just can't do it. There's a knack. That's why Dan Garcia is so great.
I would have taken that to the grave.
That's one of the greatest comments ever.
That's awesome.
And it has to be immortalized. In the privacy of my living room is like incredible. That's an all-time great. Thank you very much. The third page. There's a knack. Yes, there is indeed a knack. I feel like it goes for most dances, to be fair, or most just sort of physical maneuvering whatsoever. There has to be some kind of knack. I mean, it's kind of it's part of the recipe. Nonetheless, Dukes, as a fellow young fellow, are you fired up about this Nick Wayne deal? Did you like the way they presented him?
Yeah, I really like this, especially after the one they did the week before. It's very like on AEW and like almost like cinematic, if you will, in the way it was presented. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it was nice because it's something they don't often do a great job right? I think they have an interesting opportunity with Nick to tell like his whole story
Yeah.
and to map that out as a wrestling career. So it's very, very exciting. Okay, we have Do the Thing. This in course in reference to the MJF Adam Cole. Definitely great that these are the ways Tope lists these because I don't really remember Dynamite segment for segment. I appreciate it. Cole and MJF and their many shenanigans. So we have the pre-tape, the match, and the post-match, right? So this kind of cover this whole block. So where do we stand on this relationship specifically? And then we'll kind of get into the match, which honestly isn't really much anyway. But what do you think of this MJF Cole thing, Dukes?
Oh, I fucking love it. I fucking love it. I was so prepared to hate this feud,
Mm-hmm.
and I fucking love like everything they've done. Like the whole does this include was Dynamite where they had like the video game thing?
Yes, I think Tope
Oh,
is simply because that happened earlier, but I think Tope
Yeah.
has bunched it here into the
Yeah, because we're not doing it by hour now. This is just the whole show.
very dynamic.
Yeah. The pre-tape with the video games was fucking awesome. And the match itself was like good, but yeah, I love like the interactions and stuff. I think MJF has been like the best he's been in a while.
Yeah, he's really having fun with this. They have a lot of chemistry. It's good stuff. Chris, are you on board with this this dynamic between Cole and MJF?
Yeah, definitely. Especially what you just said about them having fun with it. It looks like both of them are like really letting their creative juices flow with this, and like they're just it just looks like they're having a good time with it, which is great. I love that like during the video game pre-tape, kind of like they did a little callback to MJF's promo about the video games at Fighter Fest, like one of the early ones. I can't remember, but when he did that promo, it was good. It was really funny. Also, I think this is the same. I think this is the same block kind of where Roddy and Britt have the backstage thing about, which like I love when they just try to be actors. It's funny, but
it's always funny when Roddy has to do that. Especially always funny.
It was funny, yeah. And then I don't know, like I'm just curious every step of the way, kind of because of the way they've built it up, like with the clothesline and with the different payoffs that they have set up, like the turn and like what role Roddy plays into this. I'm just every week they have me kind of excited for their new segment.
I definitely want to map that out a little bit, but before we do, Duke, you said you like the match, right? The tag with Cage and Big Bill.
Yes, Cage and Big Bill are so real.
Yeah, they're a fun team.
That's one of Tony Khan's most inspired booking choices ever.
Yeah, I really hope they stick with that team. There's a lot to be said for that. Chris, what did you make of the match itself?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, yeah, it's like short and sweet, and they do bits, and again, it's funny them because they're two for the most part, like again, compared to like Cage and Bill, like shorter guys. It was just a very fun visual, and I definitely do also hope that Cage and Bill stay a team because it's just like a sight.
Absolutely.
But no, it was fun. The body slam was hilarious. Like it was all good.
Very effective, like house show match, basically.
Oh,
was
for
what
sure.
It was. It worked a treat. So let's kind of map this out a little bit. Now, I think we all agree before we go any further that in an ideal world, you do not break up Adam Cole and MJF in the next month.
No.
On that.
Right.
However, these angles don't live in a vacuum, and we have to be honest about, they have Wembley Stadium coming up. They have a double weekend of pay-per-views coming up. How do you navigate that while maintaining this dynamic? Like, how do you run 2 straight pay-per-views while MJF is tied to another babyface and, or a separate babyface? And it's like, who is he wrestling? He's going to wrestle Punk in Chicago. How do you build to that in a way that's fitting for the feud while Cole is such a big character in it? So many questions here. I don't expect you to have all the answers by any means, Dukes, but kind of what's your gut feeling? Like, if we're saying they should stay together, what does that mean for Max wrestling at Wembley and Chicago? What are those matches?
Is there like, I mean, they should do like a world title match at Wembley, I think. Yeah. But like, I don't know who they could wrestle, but like, what if they wrestle FTR at Wembley?
So I think if we go down this path, I think that's the most logical, right? The idea would be that when they win the tournament, they win the belts in the following week because that match is already scheduled. I think the final. So they win
Yeah.
the belts on that, and then you do the rematch at Wembley for the tag belts, which I think we all agree would be a great match for a stadium. However, it certainly feels like you want to have a world title defense on that show, right? In that setting.
Yeah.
But I get, is that sacrifice worth it, Chris? What do you think? Is it worth that tag match to preserve your Cole MJF dynamic? It might be.
Yeah, it just depends. Like a lot of this also depends on assuming that they still carry the momentum with this act going into it, and I'm sure I hope they will. But yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards this like FTR thing intertwining with Punk.
Right.
And like the timeline on that's interesting because again, we've talked about this and like you can't help but feel like if we're gonna have, let's say Wembley's Cole and All Out's Punk, like you can't help but feel that kind of weakens Cole,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? But at the same time, that's another question of like if that's a risk you're willing to take just to have the world title on the show, right?
Right.
Because I feel like All Out Punk is like it feels like a lock because
Yeah.
just the way this is all going. I'm just
It also it has to be your priority because that is your biggest match at this point, right? I mean, I think you
Right.
could argue like the obvious one is the actual biggest match, but until that becomes feasible, which I don't think we're there yet, I think it's Punk and Max or Kenny versus Max, one of those two. I would lean towards the former because the feud they've had already. So you need to prioritize that. And luckily, the FTR match that we're kind of looking at here would help the CM Punk build. So I definitely think there's something to that. I don't really know what the alternative is. It certainly feels like Roddy Strong's going to be involved in all of this somehow, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah, they keep giving him
Yeah.
segments. It's
what do we think that looks like? Like, how could that, is that with O'Reilly maybe?
I think Roddy's gonna win the Royal Rampage.
Is he announced for that match? Because they definitely said who's in it, I think.
I have no idea, but if he's
Okay.
in it, I think he should win.
Because I know the graphic had everyone who was in it. I don't know if he was in it or not, but I could be
that's
wrong with
I
that.
know. There's a
cool.
graphic.
I actually like that a lot because you just you subtly throw him into the picture.
Yeah.
And you kind of force them to acknowledge that he's part of this now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a hell of a match too. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
interesting. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's a good problem to have because it's a red hot angle emerging in the biggest time of your year. But it is challenging. I mean, this all in, all out thing is challenging to begin with, right? I don't think it's ideal by any means, but they've got enough talent for it. So we will see how it comes together in the coming weeks and months. I'm sure the lads on Fleet Week will have you covered in that regard. Okay. In sadder news, the sky falls down here
Owned.
as Sky Blue was robbed, allegedly, on AEW Dynamite in her match with Ruby Soho. It was the semi-final match, right, for the Owen.
Yeah.
And I actually thought they had a pretty good match, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I know there's a lot of fun on here about Sky Blue because of the Tope Suicida, but now that he's not here, I think we can be fair. Oh, this was quite good. Chris, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's with Sky, she's gone to a point where she's very consistent now. Like she's going to give you a solid match.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really look at her stuff. I mean, obviously there's little things you're going to be able to criticize always about it, but she's gone to a point where she's safe on TV now to have regularly. And she's been kind of steadily getting there. So I think this was good. I mean, obviously having Ruby make it to the final is cool because then later down the line you can just run that thing about her losing in the finals.
Right.
But I mean, Sky and Willow would have been interesting too because of that dynamic that they've had. But overall, I think this was solid. Obviously, there were a few parts that were a little off. And Ruby kind of took a bump that looked a little nasty. I think it was on her face. So, but I mean, obviously she was okay. But yeah, no, I thought it was fine. It was good.
I liked it also. Dukes, what do you think of the Owen Hart semi-final match?
I thought it was good. Sky Blue gets like better every match, and I think Ruby's been great since she's been in the Outcasts. So it didn't really shock me.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be interesting, kind of her trajectory long term, right? I think she's actually got a really nice role in the division now. It's kind of the white meat baby face who's just, like she's kind of just a traditional baby face, and there isn't much depth to her, but that works. I'm intrigued how that develops into like actual feuds and stuff. I mean, I think we had some positive signs against Athena in Ring of Honor, but it'll be interesting how that crosses over to AEW TV. So we shall see. As to Sky Blue, obviously talk about Ruby a little more later, so we'll leave that there. Very creative listing here for the Nick Wayne matches. Tope simply says Nick, which fair, works better than some of the others, quite frankly, but we pop above good vibes here for Nick Wayne versus Swerve, which I think absolutely delivered, right? Those two guys have great chemistry, and I think it was on display on Dynamite. Dukes, what did you make of Nick Wayne and Swerve?
Yeah, this was like the least surprising good match of the night. I don't know if I saw both of their matches. I definitely saw the one where Swerve like kills him.
Mm-hmm.
But this was awesome. I love the story of the match too. Swerve, it started like they knew each other, like they've wrestled before, and Swerve's like known him forever. And then by then, Nick kind of went for something that he bit off a little more than he can chew, and Swerve just kind of outsmarted him.
That was gnarly, that powerbomb bump
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end, right? That catch
Yeah.
powerbomb. Sweet, man. Swerve was just terrific here. Great in this match. Very selfless performance, I thought. Chris, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, the sound on the power bomb too was like deadly. No, I thought it was really good. Obviously, like production wise, very good job too. I liked commentary kind of explaining the relation there. That was really important to me. So I'm glad that they did a good job there. Yeah, just Nick Wayne's incredible. He kind of just proved why he was worth the video packages, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the transition that this has into the Darby Swerve feud. I'm just really interested to see if Nick like sticks around Sting and Darby. I feel like that could be a little beneficial too. And just to see what his role is now. Like, okay, they gave him the video package. He had a really good showing. He lost, but obviously he lost in like an impressive way. I'm just interested to see how he's presented now, like where he goes from here.
I would probably look to give him a TV win against an underneath guy. And, that could be like an Aaron Solo, whoever it is. And I would generally have him wrestle and lose against guys like Swerve, because I think this will actually get him over more than the win I just mentioned, Like, you don't want him to be a complete loser, so you should give him those wins, especially on like a Rampage. But I think his Dynamite matches should honestly be like losing to insert, fringe top guy, that kind of range. Because I think at 18, like that's kind of the correct way of presenting him, I think, like he's got a long way to go still. And I think that's fair to who he is as a wrestler. I mean, he's very, very exciting and very, very talented, but obviously he has a long way to go. He's 18. It's ridiculous.
Younger than me.
So, good Lord. That's outrageous. I don't even think that's legal. Okay.
Probably not.
Nick Wayne, credit to him. He did a hell of a job. Hell of a job. All right. Who is the fifth man? Tope must not watch the show. This climbs up here to impeccable vibes, as we had a quite comical segment, I think it's fair to say. An outlandish segment. It's
so weird.
Pac, he emerged, and you could clearly see it was Pac, and they were like, who is that man? And then it was Pac.
That's very on AEW. They don't never do that.
Yeah, the way they were like, who's that guy back there? And it was indeed Pac. And then they got Kenny in the ring, and they were going to kill him. And Moxley said, do you have any last words? Which, thank goodness he asked that, because if he didn't ask it, I assume the Elite would have just watched on as Kenny got killed. I mean, it's all I can assume. I mean, there didn't seem to be any great hurry, but obviously I kid. I mean, this is what wrestling's all about, whole shit like this. So.
Did you see the BTE explanation of that?
I did not. not. No.
So Kenny explained to the Bucks that he knew that he was going into a trap. And then the Bucks were like, okay, so do you want us to go out with you? And he was like, no, like I got this. Like,
well, for anyone who feels that I'm being like, actually critical, I want to note that every interference finish that's allegedly planned is inherently dumb, because they do it 20 minutes into a professional wrestling match, so like this is part of the makeup of the great sport we love. So I mean it with love, but it was very funny. Any last words? Check the screen,
bitch.
Indeed, and the big man is back.
Right. And like what are they doing? What are they doing while the video's playing? Like, it's just...
you gotta watch the video, bro. I mean, you gotta check the screen. You got a hell of a reaction. The video did a hell of a reaction. I think everyone's excited, but I assume you guys are also. Chris, your response to the fifth man being announced?
So fired up! I'm so excited. I had to do what I usually have to do when something like this happens, which is like explain to my dad why this is important.
Me too.
so that was great, but whatever. They'll see on Wednesday and they'll understand hopefully. But no, I thought it was great. I also thought it was hilarious, the presentation of it, because it's just like typical like elite horse shit in the best way possible. I thought it was great that they announced Ibushi and there were also a shit ton of like cowboy shit chants for Hangman, which
Beast.
we've seen him a little less, but it's nice to see that like everyone still loves him like that. And yeah, the pack reveal was very funny too. I'm just really excited to see the match on Wednesday. I'm excited about Coda being on American TV and getting to showcase himself like that. And yeah, it should be really fun for whatever it is.
It seems like Pac is actually in. I don't think he's in either of these. I think he hates the elite.
Oh
I
my
think is what it
God.
is.
The Dangerous Alliance.
Oh my God, I didn't even read that. I just read Dangerous Alliance. God, the third page of Larry Bird is on fire, bro. He's
as per usual.
incredible.
He always cooks.
Incredible effort tonight. Dukes, what's your response to the fifth man being announced?
I hope Pac's in the Dangerous Alliance. No to rule.
The Dangerous Alliance is
I'm never
crazy.
gonna not call him that now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Fired up for Ibushi, Dukes.
Yeah, of course. It's like
So,
he's like the embodiment of like just meathead wrestler. Just like do shit, you know?
mhm.
I love that type of wrestler.
He's incredible, man. He really is. He's one of the great workers of the last, God, I don't know, 20 years. And I know it's a long list and we talk about a lot, but
He didn't even
Ibushi's
get trained. He just like figured it out.
He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna land on my
Awesome.
neck and
Yeah.
He's a force of nature. He
Fucking
really
love
is. When
him.
he's at his best, he's incredible.
He's got to get to the venue. He just needs to get to. He just needs to get to Boston.
Apparently so. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. I'm sure if not, Cutler can step in or
Oh god.
something similar.
Michael Nakazawa.
Nakazawa.
Yeah, is what it is. I mean, to be fair, this is the promotion who replaced Bryan Danielson with Pac, so they may have something up their sleeve anyway. But hopefully, we don't have to cross that bridge. I'm intrigued. What do you guys think the finish is in terms of the feud? This is it, right? This kind of has to be it. Like Moxley's going to spin off into the Eddie thing. Claudio, I could see Claudio wrestling one of these dudes on Friday for the Ring of Honor show. I think he may try and book Kota, but yeah, Hangman makes sense too.
I need that match.
So like there will be extra pieces that come out of this, but like who stands tall in blood and guts, Dukes? What do you reckon?
The Elite.
The Elite stand tall. Ibushi getting the fall maybe or getting the deciding submission.
Yeah, he's gonna beat the shit out of Wheeler Yuta.
I like it. Chris, any read on this? Any
I
gut feeling?
think we're definitely getting a murder Ibushi spot somewhere where he just fucking cracks Wheeler.
Yeah, Yuta's gonna try and like step up to him like he's the man.
Oh,
or
for
whatever.
sure, for
It's
sure.
gonna be awesome.
I've actually just convinced myself that that's happening now, so I'm looking out for it. But yeah, definitely excited to see whatever the finish is. I'm not really one way or the other here. I feel like for the results themselves, you can't really go wrong depending on how the execution. But I'm leaning towards the Elite.
It's gonna be very, very interesting. All-star matchup, to say the least. With that is your Dynamite vibrate. I'm looking for a fitting video here to kind of capture the end of this segment. I'm looking desperately here. Here we go. This will work. Tremendous. I love it. Okay, before we get to Collision, or back to Collision, I should say, watch the Rampage.
I watched Willow and Athena.
Okay. Chris, did you catch any Rampage?
No, I need to watch Willow and Athena, though.
Willow and Athena was very good, actually. Very good. It was never going to be the first match because it wasn't trying to be, but I thought they had a hell of a TV main event, and they have great chemistry, Duke, so I'm sure it got you more excited for the upcoming rubber match, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it sucks. I'm not gonna be able to watch Death Before Dishonor live,
Oh, that
but
sucks, bro. That show. Wow.
yeah. Well, especially if Hanger and Claudia's on there, man.
No, yeah. I
All,
actually
all
think
three matches that are announced for it.
I think they will actually get to a point where like we really want to see it because
Yeah,
Tony's
of course,
nuts and he'll
yeah.
just throw graphics at us. But
Yeah.
it's insane. It's this Friday, that show, right? It's absolutely insane.
Well, no, there's two
so-
matches announced actually. Two
Danny
matches
and
announced, and Claudia will wrestle. Is all we know.
right, because we've got Danny and Shibata, right? So I
Mhm.
mean, to be fair, the two matches announced are pretty
Oh, yeah.
compelling. So, all right, that was Rampage, and then we'll move back to the Collision vibrate here we saw earlier. Of course, Dax Harwood very boldly declaring that Dukes is not that guy. And we move to the Owen Hart finals. We start with the women's final, of course, as Ruby Soho took on Willow Nightingale. I would had a good match. I mean, it's very, very tough to follow the match they had to follow.
Yeah.
I actually would say it's impossible to follow that match, honestly, unless you're like, one of the most over wrestlers on the planet.
Bryan Danielson.
Willow Nightingale may get there. Honestly, like even Brian, a couple of those pay-per-views you saw it, right? If a crowd has just seen something crazy, it's
That's
hard.
true.
But I thought they did an admirable job and had a nice match, and I liked it all the same. Chris, what did you make of the women's Owen final?
Yeah, I thought the same thing in terms of like the crowd and the placement. But man, like when Willow came out, it's always, I love that it's like a real constant occurrence now whenever she shows up, that the crowd's so fired up and they do the clapping and she gets really into it. That's always really fun to see. Especially just like how she's so quickly become a star on the program. I liked the match. Again, it was fine. It didn't blow me away or anything, but it was good for what it was. I like, I don't know, I like Ruby's spot here. I think this does, obviously winning would have been great, but this was Willow's match to win. Ruby's probably going to have her time at some point, seeing as though she's lost both finals so far, and there's definitely a good story to tell later with that. If she's a heel or babyface, doesn't really matter. Like, I feel like this puts her in a good spot in terms of like staying relevant. So this is good.
Absolutely.
Full props to Ruby. She's really found her footing with the Outcasts. I don't know what, like, there's just some switch that she flipped that she's so charismatic and just really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's also worth noting that Ruby lost the TBS final tournament too, right? She made it to the final of that tournament also. So, yeah, I think they're definitely going to do something with that. Dukes, what did you make of the Willow Ruby match?
I liked it. I love both these wrestlers, so it's not a shocker that the vibes were high for me even after the tag match. But Willow fucking rules, man. I mean, she's like they've got like gold with her. It really feels
I agree.
like.
It feels like she could cross over, right? It feels like she could be an actual star.
She would
I
fucking
don't,
rule in like a late night talk show.
Yeah, and I hope they have that kind of vision for her beyond just like we will book these matches, which is great. I'm as a wrestling fan, I want to see the matches, but I hope they have like an idea of how to kind of get to that point because she is one of the most likable wrestlers in the world right now. I mean, she is just absolutely infectious. So hopefully they tap into that further. Clearly they're excited about Willow and they gave her this, which is important. I have to say though, while the men's Owen is not exactly blockbuster, they've got to do a better job of making this tournament feel like it's equal to the men's one, right? They just have to. I'm not trying to kind of relitigate that conversation over and over again, especially as a guest on Fleet Week. But like, what was the best match of the women's own? It was Athena and Willow, right?
Yeah,
And it's like that was unfortunate what happened to that match, but I really think it'd have been well served to switch that to Dynamite because unfortunately the best match of the tournament ended up due to bad luck being the one no one saw. Which is a bummer. It got completely lost in the weekend. So I don't know. It's a shame.
Right, and also just like the way that we've put it over a bunch because like especially like what I've wanted out of this and what I think everybody's wanted out of this is for the tournaments to feel important. And I feel like they did a great job this year with the men's one of giving everyone's reason as to why it is. But like the women's, I don't know, they didn't give them as much time to explain why it was important to them.
It felt like bonus content rather than a thing of equal importance, which is unfortunate. It really is, and hopefully that improves. That's obviously been an issue throughout AEW's 3 or 4 years now, but yeah, we shall see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they build upon that. And Joe just brought up in the chat, it certainly feels like Athena and Willow currently, especially because of the way the card looks. I think Athena's looking to try and get that main event spot on Friday with Willow. I hope so. That'd be very, very cool. And hopefully Athena being on TV more often post Ring of Honor title reign will help, but we shall see. We have some segments here in the middle before the main event. One of those being a Kings of the Black Throne squash match that was both dominant while also being kind of meandering. Kind of a fascinating little 2-minute match here. Very strange, I thought. Brody King fell over at one point. It's never ideal. Been there. Interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's not much, but I didn't think this quite popped the way they may have envisaged it. Do you get what I'm saying, Dukes?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely wasn't their finest squash match hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're pretty good at those usually.
Oh
right?
yeah.
The camera was missing stuff, and there was one hilarious spot at ringside where Brody he threw the guy into both barricades, and they missed it both times, which I thought was quite impressive. But
Awesome.
This Andrade thing is zipping along, and I don't think it's much good thus far. But Chris, what do you make of this?
Back.
I've heard, yes. Chris, what do you make of this House of Black Andrade saga, we'll call it?
Yeah, this is one of those things where, I think, obviously the segments, have been funny more or less, but, not for the reasons that are, good. Just because it's funny, Andrade screaming at the TV that he wants his mask back.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where I just know the match is the match that we're getting, and I'm excited about that. The story is, what it is, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited for the match. They could have done this about anything else, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. The House of Black, I understand why they're on Collision, and I know there's personal ties there, and they wanted to be on Collision and so on and so forth. But their shit actually feels even more out of place on Collision, which is a hilarious development. When Collision was announced, none of us were surprised by the names on the poster, right? The faces on the poster. And through 6 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it's been, most of the guys that wasn't surprised to see there have fit like a glove. Honestly, FTR feel more at home on Collision than they have on any show since they were on NXT in 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
The House of Black, while I understand why they're on it for other reasons, as an actual wrestling act, I think they feel completely out of place on that show. It's bizarre to me. I love watching the guys wrestle, so hopefully we can get to that here sooner than later, but we shall see. Nonetheless, a very spiteful graphic here on our screen as Ricky Starks wins the Owen Cup, defeating CM Punk in a divisive match, to say the least. Allegations of Ricky Starks being a fraud have emerged since this match and before, if you ask Manny the Hooper, but they've really kind of escalated since. And I don't want to kind of lead anyone here, but I thought it was a pretty good match. Dukes, what did you think? What did you think?
I liked it too.
Yeah, nothing blow away, but pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was either guy's finest hour. I don't think the chemistry was perfect or anything like that, but
right.
I definitely think it's been a huge overreaction, especially online.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I definitely didn't think it was beyond that, to be clear, but somewhere in that range. Chris, do you agree with us, or did you have a stronger take on this?
Yeah, no, there's nothing that really blew me away one way or the other, to where I'm calling him a fraud or I'm saying that he's the future or whatever. I thought it was fine. I'd like the story where, Punk, they're nice acquaintances. I wouldn't call them friends necessarily in the story, but Punk's still trying to fuck with him a little bit, and then Ricky starts taunting, and then they're like, okay, it's serious now, and then to end up with the finish that we got, I thought it was intriguing. It was intriguing. I don't think necessarily this just isn't the type of match that Ricky's used to, I guess. But overall, I think it was good. This is a good spot for him. We'll see what this does for him. Hopefully he, finds his footing again. But yeah, it was fine. It was good. It kept me entertained, and also CM shorts. So
factual. I must say, and I like Ricky Starks a lot, but the one thing I would say to go to kind of head in many directions, I I know it wasn't clean, but I think this is a pretty bold finish, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't really see what Ricky's going to be doing in the short term that's going to make this like worth it, to be totally frank. And I know I totally get the argument of like Punk doesn't need the Owen. But like, who is Ricky going to wrestle at these next two big shows, you know? Because I don't think he's wrestling Punk at either of them.
Especially if you're putting Punk in the position that you're putting him in. Like, it just, I don't know. Obviously, like you said, he doesn't need it, but it's just a little bit of a head scratcher because we've already kind of gone this direction with Ricky.
Right.
And we've seen what he is in that aspect. So keeping him babyface would have been a little. I mean, I don't know. Unless there's, I can only imagine that there's a vision for it if they did it the way they did. But again, I don't know if that's giving them too much credit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it because I like Ricky and I appreciate the effort to make a guy because let's be fair, Collision has got a very small squad and they have like 2 top guys, you know, so like you do need to do that. I just got to be honest, and you know, again, I don't want to go full Hooper. I like Ricky, but I don't think in the Owen he has performed at a level where you would say we got to run with Ricky beating CM Punk. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of bold. Dukes, where do you stand on that? Or you just kind of let it play out, which is fair if so.
I think I would have like had Punk be more of the heel in the match and had Ricky just win in the end instead of having him like cheat to win. I really don't understand why he's gonna be a heel again. I like him as a babyface a lot more.
Yeah, feels like him and Hobbs are going to switch roles, right? It's weird.
Yeah, so weird.
I don't know. It's a tough one. Ricky Stark's a guy I believe in his instincts. I think he's going to figure it out. So again, it's not a talent thing. I'm really intrigued. We can circle back to this. Let's see what he does at those 2 big shows. You know, like let's see where he's at on those. That would be interesting to me. But hopefully it works out. Big fan of Ricky. And I thought the match was pretty good. They're certainly not great, but pretty good. Okay, before we go into a bigger picture topic, I wanted to kind of throw out you guys before I get out of here. Do you know much Battle of the Belts? Chris did. Okay, impressive. Dukes, that face seems to suggest you did not watch Battle of the Belts. I didn't either, to be clear. I saw it had a 4 on Cage Match. I was like, well, win some, you lose some. Chris, what was the best match on Battle of the Belts?
I would say best match was. Let me look it up. None of them were like great, right? So you guys didn't miss a lot. But I thought Tony and Taya had some nice moments.
Okay. Now, there was at one point they lost like. What happened? They lost the feed at one point.
Yeah, I didn't watch it live, so I didn't get that.
Oh.
But I heard Ian in the main event says that they just learned that they lost, the satellite in the area because of the weather, whatever. And they show it was I think it was the finish to Tony Taya because that's what they show at the end. They do like earlier tonight, and they show that.
Look, I know you don't care about these Battle of the Belts shows, but like, it feels hard to come up with a lineup this bad, you know? Luchasaurus Sean Spears is perverted.
I don't even know what the third match was.
It was Orange and Lance,
Orange and Lance bringing that count out.
That was kind of enticing. When I heard it was kind of, and I was like, whatever, we'll leave that. But we like Sean Spears around here. But come on, I mean, have some respect for our time, you know.
The whistle entrance was back though, so that's kind of a win for me. I was happy about that.
That's cool.
That's true.
But there's a few moments in the Orange Lance that were like that I liked, like Lance just throwing him into the barricade.
Right.
And it was great. But yeah, I don't know. The finish was just weird. It was weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, Spears. I mean, he wasn't bad. It was just makes you think, you know.
I just don't get why. I thought Christian was going to defend the belt. I thought the bit was that he couldn't beat Wardlow, but he would defend it. Now we're just watching Luchasaurus wrestle. I don't know who wanted this.
And they try to do like a comedy thing of like Spears took Christian's jacket off and then revealed like oh my god, what's that called? The turtleneck, the sleeveless, and then Christian was just looking around like it was
incredible.
Yeah, Spears is fine. You know, he's just such a solid like fundamentals. Yeah. He's gonna give you a good match, but yeah, I don't know. This show was so unnecessary. Like in general, when you look at it and you look at the card, you're like, why did we do this? This did nothing for us.
Well, I would like to announce that the confirmed shoot and I were fantasy booking some Sean Spears ideas today, and we came up with a new tag team with him and a certain British free agent. And we feel, with their size, with the Brits promo, Spears mechanics, we think we're on the same. So I'm just going to leave that there. And before I depart this very program, I want to ask you guys, where are we at in the current kind of temperature check in terms of Dynamite and Collision? I'm not doing this to do the exhausting, like one's better than the other thing, because I just genuinely want to know where you guys are at after 6 weeks. Like, how has it affected your enjoyment of Dynamite? Do you like Collision thus far? So on and so forth. Dukes, I'll start with you. What do you make of this thus far? This kind of weird brand split that's not a brand split.
It hasn't really affected my enjoyment of Dynamite at
Good.
all because they're very different and I get
Mhm.
different things out of them. And I almost never watch Collision live. But I will say there's like a lot of shit to like catch up on
Yeah.
now. And it gets a little exhausting. I didn't watch Will and Athena until like 2 minutes before we went live.
It's tough, man. It's like we're sickos, right? The
Yeah.
fact that we're doing this right now, we are nuts. And it's like it does worry me a little bit. And I know that's kind of where media is at now. It's just like content. You have to have more content. But like, good Lord, man. I mean, it's just a lot of wrestling. And I'm not even complaining about it. I'll watch what I want to watch, but it is a lot. I appreciate this third page, Larry Bird, concluding his great night at the scoring table with the perfect treasures, which is an amazing name for the aforementioned tag team. Chris, what have you made of this kind of Collision Dynamite dynamic?
Yeah, I'm with Dukes on the fact that it's just a lot to catch up on. But for the most part, it's like a huge net gain in terms of my enjoyment of it. Like Collision and Dynamite are both, they have just such different feels. I gravitate a little more towards the Collision side of it, like in terms of enjoyment. Like I look forward more to Collision now, even if it's on rewatch. But they both I enjoy both of them completely. I've stopped making an effort to try to watch Rampage. Like if there's something that I hear is
Yeah.
good, I'll look out for that match or clips of the match. But honestly, it does nothing. Like even before, kind of
Right.
it felt not important, but I would still kind of try to keep up with the stories and stuff. Here, we're at a point where I don't even look. Like I
Right,
look at the
because-
results and kind of like
Yeah.
what happened just to have an idea of what's happening, but I don't make an effort.
I mean, it's tough because I think if nothing else, Rampage before had that role of like, if you want more AEW, here's your hour. But now it's like, you have to really have that locked into your weekly schedule to watch it, I think, which is unfortunate because there will be good matches. I mean, the last 2 weeks have had good matches on Rampage. Just is what it is. Good question from Brainbuster. I'll conclude my business with this one. He says, how would you feel about Cole being the one to turn on MJF? I've worked myself into believing it's going to happen and I'll accept nothing else, like a true wrestling fan right there. I'm really into this idea. I don't know about soon, but eventually I think it's a really interesting direction. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, this is something we spoke about. I think I don't know. I feel like Joe, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's probably in a voice chat or something.
It was.
But it's such an interesting direction to take this in, and I feel like this story can end multiple ways and be like good. But I think wow, it's just that's something that really I'm kind of gravitating towards that idea too, just because it's so like we saw it with Buffalo after I forgot when it was. Was it after
All
Max?
Out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that he just like the crowd loved him. I think the crowd's ready to love Max, like
They have been for a long time.
and get behind him. But also I don't know. It's just Cole as a heel historically, like gets a lot of buzz and is pretty good. But I don't know. I just don't know. I don't think there's a wrong answer here because I think they could do it both ways.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting. But I definitely think in terms of like sicko, like I want to dive into that and see what that story is. Would be it like really really incredible.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Dukes, co-sign that, mate.
Yeah. The more I like talk about it and think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that would be fucking cool.
Tremendous. Well, fellas, do you guys have any other business to handle, or are we done for the night?
I think we're done.
All right,
good.
folks. Fleet week, slightly briefer than usual. I had a tight hour here, but I took back the wheel for the night. Dukes will be back hosting next week, I'm sure. Had to really
Allegedly.
convince him too, right, Chris? Did you see that? I was like, please, bro, you need to let me It's real fight for the keys. But nonetheless, this has been Fleet Week. I would say they'll be back next week at this time, but I don't know that's true. Nor do they.
Who knows?
Stay locked in at Late Night Grin. They now have the login, which popped them, and they can
crazy.
update accordingly.
That's so scary.
Is what it is, pal. You've been trusted, so we'll see what happens. But I'm off to WrestlePeers Worldwide. Dukes, do you have anything to promote, anything to plug before we go over, mate?
No.
Nothing. At Duke's Grin on Twitter, right?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe. Turns who's got the login. Chris, anything to promote, anything to push?
Nope, just watch the show whenever it airs. We don't know. We don't even know sometimes hours before what's going on at this point.
It happens.
We'll get
It
better,
happens.
I promise, guys. We'll get better, maybe.
It
Maybe.
happens, but,
But yeah.
a hell of a show nonetheless. This was a good time being back here, overseeing the vibrators once more. Couple of things coming up this Friday. If the Ring of Honor card comes together, we're going to be doing the Late Night Grin post Ring of Honor. So keep your eye on that. I'm not going to confirm it until I see the card, but that is the plan. So we shall see what happens on Friday. The WCW Grin Along that I had to miss on Saturday will probably be going back to not this Saturday, but next. Probably. I'm still going to try to figure that out because if we're doing the Grin on Friday, I think that's probably a dumb idea to do that as the show on Saturday. So moving pieces, stay locked in at Late Night Grin to keep updated. I'm going to do a solo show this week also. So we appreciate you guys. Keep grinning. All hail. Thanks for watching Fleet Week. Enjoy this outro, folks. Have a good night.